Katie, Warren Buffett has been fascinated with railroads since he was a kid, but he looks at them as a great indicator of what's happening with the economy. He's always kind of looked at the rail car loadings to try and get a sense of how things are going in this country. What do you see right now? Where do we stand from what you're seeing at the railroad?
Right. Well, we, like Warren, look at our rail car loadings every week. And to give you just a barometer of where we see rail car loadings and what that means to our railroad, we basically say that if we're handling about 200,000 units a week, that indicates that we're a busy railroad. And to give you some perspective, back in 2018, we handled over 200,000 units a week 41 times that year. If you fast forward to 2020 this year and the impact of the pandemic, we haven't hit 200,000 units on our railroad yet. And in the depth of the pandemic, our rail loadings were actually down to about 150,000 units a week. Now, we have seen that continue to come back, and we anticipate this week we'll handle somewhere in the neighborhood of mid 195, 196,000 range. So we have seen the economy start to pick up relative to rail loadings.
There have been some industry reports that suggest it's really difficult to get a booking on a railroad if you're trying to move things, let's say, from the West Coast ports anywhere into the Midwest or vice versa, that there's been a real shortage because of a crush of new volume that's coming into those ports.
Well, we definitely have seen our consumer products business increase fairly rapidly over the last several weeks. And consumer products for us is a combination of our domestic intermodal, our international intermodal, and our automotive. And as you know, Becky, intermodal is the business where we work with our steamship lines, our trucking partners to bring either a 53-foot container or a 40-foot container to us on the rail to load. And it primarily is consumer products in those containers or trailers that then go on to retailers. And we have seen a significant increase in volume in the last couple of weeks. And I think there's a couple of factors that are driving that. We continue to see the inventories that need to be replenished across the supply chain. And so we're working to fill distribution centers that have been depleted through the pandemic. We also have seen a tightening in over-the-road truck capacity. And in addition to that, something that we were seeing obviously prior to the pandemic, but we certainly have seen accelerated, is the move from bricks and mortar retailing to online retailing. And so you're right, we have seen a pretty significant increase. In fact, if you look across our hubs and our terminals, we typically, in a year where we're preparing for the holiday season, see what we call peak volumes. And those peak volumes happen typically in the September, October timeframe. We actually have started to see peak level volumes across our system relative to domestic intermodal that are happening in the August and now September timeframe, which we think is a great thing because BNSF, as you know, Becky, is the largest intermodal railroad in the world. We have the fastest network, and we think this is a great opportunity that works well for one of our core competencies.
Some of the reports I've read suggest that BNSF is chasing that additional volume coming in from the West Coast and trying to do the best it can to capture that additional volume, while the UP, Union Pacific, is not doing as much, has not moved as quickly to do that. Is that an accurate representation, you think?
Well, Becky, I never like to comment on other railroads' operating philosophies, but I can tell you how we look at it at BNSF. And we have a bias for growth at BNSF. We believe that, we are very closely tied to the industrial and the consumer economies. And because of that, we continue to see peaks and valleys from year to year in our volumes. And so we have to be focused on growth. We have to be nimble enough that we can capture growth opportunities when they come to us. And inherent in being able to capture those growth opportunities is having a competitive cost structure. And we're extremely focused on that. And when you have growth opportunities and a good cost structure, that gives you the opportunity to be able to get value for the services you provide. And with that value, you then should be able to earn an adequate return that allows us to continue to invest in our network and have the capacity that we can say yes then to growth opportunities. And so that's the model that we use. That's the model we've used in the past, and that'll be the model that we continue to use moving forward.
Some people point out, though, that container traffic isn't really high margin business. So you're able to go after, make these changes in such a quick way and still make a profit on all this.
Yes, ma'am. And we continue. That's why it's critical for us to be able to have a good cost structure and to be able to remain competitive with over the road trucking.